But what is narration after all? In this lecture, I'm going to unpack in detail what narration is to make sure that we understand it. I'm going to talk through narration's two elements as well as narration's two goals. After doing that, I'll make sure to distinguish between narration and other teaching practices. So first, let's dive in with narration's two elements. What is narration? Well, in the opening lecture, I told you a story of first experiencing narration myself as a time when I sat in on a lesson and students were reading from the Bible. They read out an oracle from the book of Jeremiah. All the students closed their Bibles, and one student was called upon to tell back everything he could remember from that passage. You can see from this example that narration is a simple practice. It's really only got two elements to it, but just because it's simple doesn't mean that it isn't elegant or have a sort of beauty in it, as well as being actually very effective. So the two elements that make up narration as a teaching practice are first the exposure to students of rich content. We're putting before students some valuable content that they can take in. Then the second step is having them respond to that content. And the student's response to that content is a particular type. It's an imitative response to the content as they tell back or narrate what they saw, heard, read, or experienced. Of course, the exposure of students to rich content can come in many different forms. As classical educators, we are often putting classic texts, great books, in front of our students from the youngest levels on up, wonderful books, and therefore the rich content may look like us simply reading out from that text or having the students read a text. But it can look different as well. There could be important times where a teacher gives a lecture or demonstrates a truth, say in mathematics on the board to students. That could be the exposure of rich content to them. Or it could be a beautiful painting that we put before students to have them take it in before asking them to tell back everything they see or saw in that painting. It could also be some sort of natural specimen. We could take a flower or take students out to look at an oak tree and observe it for a while before having them then express everything they saw. The main point is that we want to expose students to rich content. This was part of Charlotte Mason's idea of how we grab hold of students' minds. We give them truly life-giving content full of ideas, and that naturally grabs their attention. Of course, that second part, the response to content, is really where the work of narration actually occurs. What we want is students to take the time to tell back as fully as possible the content as they experienced it. And this is where really students are learning. It's in the assimilation of telling back that students actually store in their long-term memory something that they learned.